Welcome back to Prehistoric Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at Sonic the Hedgehog 3, a film trilogy, I guess now, is something that I actually had to been meaning to at least see beforehand because I kind of ended up avoiding most of the actual kind of Sonic live action movies, mainly because I didn't think that like I would be invested into them, but after very much seeing of how that people were getting really much hype for like Sonic 3 with like Shadow and like basically anything else that had related to like Shadow's like story, I kind of knew that I wanted to at least see this film because I thought that was gonna look cool. So check out the other films. If you want to know, they did leave a tweet up there, at least regarding my thoughts on like the actual like first two films, and I actually do quite enjoy them a lot. And I feel like this film series actually keeps getting like better and better every time it makes a movie. Except for the Knuckles one, I really hated that one. That was honestly the least favorite of the bunch. But going to Sonic 3 and seeing all the other movies, is this film actually good? And I'll actually say it, yeah, it's actually great. I really liked it. But there is some things I do think it kind of holds a little bit back. But don't get me wrong, this film is an absolute just like fun, blasting, and like like a heart-touching thing. An issue that I always kind of have with like most of the Sonic films, where you usually get that the humans were kind of just the least favorite thing about the whole movies, and it got better within the second movie, but in the third they actually lock in and actually make not like the two humans that we follow entirely there, and make them actually kind of integral towards the whole thing, and I actually really appreciate that on how well they actually managed to do it. And I will say though that I was almost kind of like not thinking that James Marsden would kind of be like be worth it in this film, but even though he has such a small background to play in it, he does actually he actually does end up mattering a lot to Sonic, at least by the third act, and it actually works really well. I actually really like that and how well they actually end up doing it. The action in this movie was actually just fantastic to see, both from like Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and Shadow. All of them having to just kind of put the full powers on display was actually something really great to see. Everybody's performance in this film was actually really top notch, but the honestly highlight moment of the whole thing, even aside from like Shadow, was actually Jim Carrey playing both Ivo Robotnik and Gerald Robotnik. And honestly, you can tell that Jim Carrey was just having the time of his life, playing both like two like mad geniuses, very much in like opposed of different like kind of sides of like what they kind of like are, and he just like goes all in. Like, it is by far his most like goofiest and most insane performance as of yet, and he manages to make it all worthwhile to the point where I was just actually just smiling a lot in a lot of their scenes, because it is literally just him going off of him, and it's just like it was really just great. Jim Carrey just did really well in this performance, and I'm honestly hoping that he kind of sticks around more in like the Sonic franchise, because he nails it. He really just does nail this, and I really just see the Robotnik in him that he gets really close to, honestly. Shadow's backstory with Marie was also really something nice, touching, and I actually do like the little kind of sweet moments that we actually do at least get with one of them. And aside from just some like couple of scenes that, although maybe didn't make me laugh like too much, maybe only because like I was like laughing a little bit more like Jim Carrey kind of going off with his double entirely. I think the film actually at least does well of trying to at least be both a comedy and as well as trying to be a little bit intense, because it's kind of hard and difficult to do, which there is something that I do think that is kind of a bit of a valid criticism towards this film, is that it kind of moves a bit too fast. Like, I get it, it's in the name of Sonic, so obviously it was obviously going to go very fast. It feels like it almost kind of doesn't take much of a moment to kind of let things like sit or like take a little bit of a breather, because although yes, they technically do most of the scenes actually pretty well, even in that regard, it feels like most of it kind of goes a bit too fast. Like, they kind of don't let things simmer just that little bit, that little extra bit, and then it kind of would have been honestly a really good film. Not saying it's a bad film in any other way. It's absolutely a fantastic one. But to me, I think like some certain scenes that I think would have been really beneficial if they just kind of like maybe stop a little bit, then I think it would have been fine. I think it's just more of a bit of a nitpick from me because maybe I was kind of putting my expectations a bit too high to put this a lot of it, because it is a children's film after all. You're probably going to be making sure that your kids are not trying to get scarred by a lot of it, and you can kind of tell why. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like a me thing. But again, I don't think this kind of ruins it for me. Honestly, it's still a good film. It's kind of just more just like kind of my own little kind of like headcanon as to what I probably have done better within it. Even aside from just most of like things of kind of being a bit plot convenient, like the dialogue is kind of, I think, a bit too kid friendly or just like too wacky for the most part. Like they, not trying to like spoil was it, but like there's a scene where like they had to infiltrate something and then they very much had to kind of do in disguise, and they can't get past it, so they basically had to just say like, hey, you're gonna get fired if you don't do this, and they kind of just do, which is like, it's kind of funny, but like, like, do you really just like the threat of being fired is like, okay, yeah, you go, you have the clearance. Like, that bubble was kind of a bit too easy. I don't know, kind of like why, but like, you know what? I'm gonna just let that one pass, I guess, a little bit. Overall, but I think the film actually did a pretty good job on like basically most things. Honestly, like the film like honestly gets like better and better every time. And I am honestly looking forward to more Sonic stuff when they actually keep doing it, because they very much did announce for like a Sonic 4 that's going to be happening, which I am pretty much intrigued by, and I actually kind of want to know what's going to be happening with that one. And yeah, no, that's really the Prehistoric review. If I have to put this on the rating, I'm going to give this film a nice little like 85%. I think that's kind of like a fitting way of putting it. But yeah, no, that's really all there is to this film. And have a happy holidays, and I'll see you all by like January.